All right. We are live in vivo again from beautiful downtown Mos Eisley in the Tatooine deserts of Arizona with one of our members coming to us from the lush green forest of Takodana. But with that, Bailey, Brandon, let's get into this. Here we go again, to quote Chris down here. That's exactly where we're at. Here we go. Let's start off by saying hi to everybody. Brandon, how are you doing, brother? How's everything going?
Doing really well. I'm having a good weekend.
All right, that's always good. Well, you know what? Give me a chance. Let's see if I can mess it up for you. It's only Saturday. Bailey, how about you, ma'am? How are you doing?
I am doing very well. We've got new Star Wars content to talk about, so I couldn't be better.
What? Right? What is this, if I'm not mistaken, new Star Wars that we've gotten since The Mandalorian is the last stuff we got that was new, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's what I'm talking about. Well, let's start off by this time we've got, I think, between 7 or 9, depending on how you look at it, people who have already found the channel and have joined us. We got, oh, look at that. We got chat legend Gilster, been hanging out for a little while waiting for us to get here. Good to see you, Gilster.
Hey, Gilster.
Mr. Rez, he's here. I love his icon. It looks like, what is that? The rat with the mask on?
The brain, yeah.
The brain, that's right. Yeah. Chris, always awesome supporter. Yeah, there we go. Pinky and the brain. I remember now. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Check out Gilster. I'm impressed. He's watching Bad Bad episode 1 on DisneyPlus, also on the Vizio. He's got all Star Wars going in both directions. And then my favorite, Michael Hendrickson is back. Michael, it's always good to see you, man. Michael. How are you doing? All right. Welcome back to the Bad Batch Breakdown with Brandon and Bailey, hosted on Paul's Collectibles. I am your illustrious host, Paul, and I've got Brandon, as I mentioned earlier, and Bailey with me. We're excited to be back every Saturday, 6 p.m. We'll be talking about the newest episodes of the Bad Batch that have come out. Today, we got 2. Or as we like to say down here, tenemos dos, that we're going to talk about. And I just couldn't be more excited about this, you guys, man. I was just blown away by that, especially by that first episode. So we're going to kind of get right into it if you guys are ready.
I'm ready.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's do this. All right. So we're going to start off with Brandon, as always, because that way Bailey can come in and tell you how wrong you are.
Okay. Yes, sounds good.
And we're going to get some overall impressions and stuff like that, and we'll go from there. So Brandon, we're going to give you the floor, brother.
All right. So I thought it was the perfect way to start it out. I know some people have called it season 8 of the Clone Wars. And I think it's obviously going to be more than that, because we're getting that wonderful transition period. And I think they're already doing a good job of showing that it's not just a continuation of the Clone Wars or a flip the switch transition to the Empire. There's the little changes taking place, the little things in the armor and everything. I thought this episode was a great way to start it all off. I was really happy right from the start when we saw the lightsabers, and I was like, yes, my prediction was right.
You win.
The way that they kind of introduced everything, it seemed like everything was kind of the cheesiness and the tropes were turned down just a little bit from what they were in season 7 of the Clone Wars. So I thought that was no tropey McTrope tropes. Well, they were still there, but still Wrecker, kind of got on my nerves a little bit, but yes. Once again, they surprised me with how emotional they made this episode. Some of the themes, I enjoyed this more than I enjoyed any of the other episodes or all of the episodes combined of the season 7 of not season 7 of the Clone Wars, but that arc from the Bad Batch. And just the way that they did it, we had time to, get to see how the start of the Empire was affecting these characters. So I thought it was a very, very good opening, and same thing with episode 2. So go ahead.
Nice. Really quick, before we get to you, Bailey, we got another chat legend in here. Josh, it's good to see you, man. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah. So Bailey, you I accidentally took my hand a little bit there, but I got to give props where props are due. Brandon was right. He called the lightsaber thing, and I'll be darned if that's exactly what happened to start off. What are you thinking? What do you got going on so far?
You know what? I am pleasantly surprised. I liked it way more than I expected. I really expected to stay lukewarm because, beginnings are hard. And, I was kind of already going into this being like, wow, they didn't really impress me, with these guys the first time around. So how are they going to do it this time? But they did a really good job introducing these characters. And, oh, man, that Order 66 scene, how many times is Star Wars going to make me sit through that? That is
wow.
God, that was so powerful. And it was such a punch in the gut. Like, Depa's scream, was so, haunting. And, poor, Caleb, running away. And, there's also another scene where they're back on Camino and these clones are carrying a body bag that we know had a Jedi on it, and that lightsaber just falls. I was I felt that. That was so oh my God. And then Palpatine's speech about the rise of the Empire, I got goosebumps. It really, I was so impressed with how they did it. And, yeah, overall, I'm just really pleased with how they're handling it. And it's, as Brandon said, I really like how you're seeing a gradual transition from the Republic to the Empire. The clones aren't wearing Stormtrooper armor quite yet, but they're kind of getting in that direction. And, yeah, I'm impressed. So that's good. That's good. I wanted to be impressed. Order 66.
Right. Yeah. I tell you, Brandon and Bailey, you agreed. I just probably Brandon got to talk first that day, but man, lightsabers right off the bat, some hard hitting imagery involving lightsabers right off the bat. I tell you what, B, I'm glad you got you on this show because you know what you're talking about, bro. It was impressive stuff, and you nailed it on the head, man. You nailed it. So, Brandon, give us a little bit of a rundown on kind of how we got introduced and what's going on in season one, or episode one, if you don't mind.
So I mean, it takes place kind of running parallel to Revenge of the Sith and season 7 of the Clone Wars, because they mention that Obi-Wan is going to engage General Grievous, and that Tech is pretty much like, they're not going to need our help because the Clone Wars is going to be over. And they're all like, what? We can't plan for that. But, and just having that feeling, hearing them say that, that Order 66 is just getting ready to happen. So the episode starts, and it's Depa Billaba with her clone battalion on Collar, the planet. I don't remember what it was called, but
I forgot the name too. Yeah.
One of the pronunciations of those two, but they are needing reinforcements, and then they're ended up just getting these 5 clones, the Bad Batch clone group 99, and they're all like, well, where are the rest of our reinforcements, even though we didn't really need them? Where are the rest? And they said they're diverted to the capital, so that that Anakin and Obi-Wan are going to rescue Palpatine, and there's all this other stuff going on, and well, actually that wouldn't. Yeah, but it was really hard to see the Bad Batch respond to what the clones were doing. They had their helmets on, but you could totally tell they were confused. And now we know that the chips, the inhibitor chips in their brains, not all of them were affected by the Order 66 command. They heard it, but they all responded to it differently, except Crosshairs that we know now. So it was a really, really great way to thread this opening episode in with what we've seen so far and what we know that happens.
Agree. That's an excellent point. And Bailey, can you give us a little bit more insight as to because they go back to Camino and stuff like that? Give us a little bit of idea what's going on there.
Yeah, so they, after the whole Order 66, they were commissioned to return back to Kamino, because at this point, Tarkin's going to arrive to Kamino and basically give the Kaminoans the rundown of, what's coming next. Tarkin basically arrives to Kamino to tell the prime ministers of the Kaminoans, the people who have been cloning these clones. And he's like, the Empire, we don't need clones anymore. And they're a little confused on that too. He was basically like, we're going to use the men that we have, but we're no longer going to be using clones. And the Kaminoans are like, well, no, like we can produce, whatever type of soldier you need. And Tarkin wasn't really budging on that, but then he becomes intrigued by the Bad Batch because, as Brandon said, they weren't really impacted by Order 66 except for the one. And the Kaminoans mentioned that, they're a little rogue. They're not, as obedient. They're different. And so Tarkin's like, okay, well, let's check these guys out. The Bad Batch show their skill. And this is where we meet Omega too, which we now have confirmation she is a female. So she is a female clone. And she shares the same DNA as the Bad Batch. So she's like, we don't know why she's intrigued by these guys yet, but she was instantly drawn to them. And she was, trying to go out of her way to talk to them, to be with them. And she was the one to tell the Bad Batch, like, hey, Tarkin isn't as nice as he seems. He may be setting you up. And I say setting you up because Tarkin is like, I'm going to test these guys' loyalty. Can they listen to the Empire, yes or no? And so he dispatches them to kill some rebels. Saw Gerrera, who appears in Rogue One, he wants them to kill them. And the Bad Batch, except for one, was like, I don't know how I feel about killing innocent people, without understanding why. And they mentioned that, when they worked with the Jedi, they the Jedi never did that. Like, they understood why they were doing what they were doing, and they weren't like questioning, why are you tasking me to kill these people? So they don't. And Tarkin isn't pleased and is like, yeah, we need to get rid of these guys because I don't already want clones to begin with, but these guys are going to be a problem and I want to get rid of it because there are no problems in the Empire. And so, but before they leave, they go back to Kamino for Omega because they were concerned, they were still not sure why she was made or what the intentions were for her. But, Hunter, the leader in particular, was like, I want this kid to be with us. I just don't have a good feeling about this Tarkin guy in this Empire. And that was pretty much the episode, was Tarkin was testing these guys. Are you going to listen to the Empire, yes or no? And, they decided not to. And, and one of my predictions was correct in that one of them did, in fact, I don't want to say betray the Bad Batch, but one of them that was more impacted by the inhibitor chip ends up being Crosshair. Yeah, so he's our sniper guy. He was the one that was, responsive to Order 66. He was the one that was wanting to hunt Caleb down, the little Jedi Padawan in the beginning. And he was the one that didn't really have a problem with Tarkin's commands. But when they came back for Omega, Tarkin was curious about Crosshair. He's like, wait, that guy's listening. And basically what they did is they put him under and they, I don't know what exactly they did to the chip, but they basically made him fully obedient to the Empire.
They enhanced it.
So then he kind of runs, Bad Batch off. So that's where the episode leaves. They lose one of their own right off the bat, and they're just fleeing from Tarkin with Omega with them. But why, we're not sure yet.
So let's hit a couple of things here real quick. Michael's got an excellent question. Any idea who that dead Jedi was? Brandon?
Go ahead, Bailey, if you
I don't have a name, so if you have
okay.
a name, go for it.
Yeah, she was the Jedi that was stationed on Kamino. Her name is Rig Nema or Nema. And yeah, I've seen different videos showing that she was the one that was, because we've seen her on Kamino in the past in different episodes of the Clone Wars.
Do you know the spelling of her first name in case anybody wants to look at that?
RIG space NEMA.
Oh, well, there you go, Michael. Now you know why I have these two smart people on, because I never would have gotten that. So, and then let's see. Josh is all about Omega. I think, that's an unopened can that's going to be deep and full of a bunch of interesting secrets. Really quick, Darth Muzza showed up. Good to see you, Darth. We love to have you. Yeah. And then my man Salacious, he's kind of like me. He likes the show, but I'm looking at thinking to myself, wow, electronic or computer animation or whatever they're doing, it's just come such a long way. And that episode on that planet where Caleb Doom jumps over the waterfall was just exquisitely beautiful to me. I almost grabbed a picture of that, but I didn't. But now I kind of wish I did. So I agree with you, Salacious. Absolutely. So let's back up just a little bit here. So we're getting some good questions here. So that clone that's with the Twilight family, does he have a working chip? I tell you what, Darth, we're going to get to that because we want to concentrate on episode 1, but we're going to be moving on here pretty quick. The question I have for you guys is, let me bring it back up really quick because we kind of touched on it, but we didn't really get into it too much. And I think this is kind of important. We talked about Brandon, absolutely nailed it with, you're going to see a lightsaber within the first minute. And of course we got Deepa Balaba and Caleb Doom. And these two topics that I want to talk about will actually dovetail into each other. This, for people who don't know, is that's Kanan Jarrus. Am I correct, Bailey?
Yes.
Okay. And he is the star of, they have their own show too, right? Or something?
Correct. Yeah. So the boy here that you guys see, he survives Order 66, and there's another Star Wars show called Star Wars Rebels, and he is one of the main characters of that show. And he was an intriguing character on that show, and that we're seeing not only another surviving Jedi, but this was an adult who lost basically someone who was like a mother to him on Order 66. He saw it with his own eyes, and it was very similar to Jedi Fallen Order 2 in that, they start off with a Padawan losing their master, and, they survive and grow up. But yeah, that's who that little boy is he is Kanan Jarrus, and he's in Star Wars Rebels.
Got it. And of course, whoops, I do it all the time. There we go. Brandon, what happens to Deepa Balaba? Do we know his master?
Oh, she died. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So they did. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. There wasn't because we technically didn't see it off screen. No, she's dead. And
okay.
To bring it back to Rebels, they did such a beautiful job with it because you can find little pictures of it right now, but it's the Grand Inquisitor, who's a dark acolyte pretty much, is interrogating Kanan, and he brings up his master, and he says, "Do you remember what your last words were to you?" And he says it, and they did exactly that. Yeah. And it was so that moment is just super powerful, and it's super hard to see him witness those, knowing that he still feels that in Rebels when the Inquisitor is questioning him on that. But yeah, it such a good job already.
They did. Yeah. So Josh brings up something really good here. I actually saw a video on this. Bailey, do you want to speak to that? Because I know you've read those comics, right?
Yeah, no? I've seen bits and pieces of it, but yeah, that was probably I think that's been the biggest takeaway amongst the fandom is they're a little confused as to why what we saw in the show was completely different than these comics. For example, just little details, Depa had a green lightsaber in the comics instead of blue, and just the Order 66 was just completely different. In the comics, Caleb actually had to kill a couple of clones. Like, it was way more intense in the comics.
Okay.
But not that I personally, I mean, it's a little confusing as to why they would decide to make those changes. I feel like those changes were made because of the Bad Batch, because the Bad Batch was not present in those comics. So I feel like they retconned those comics, which is kind of like, these comics are not old at all. They're a couple years old. So I know like a lot of fans were like, well, what's the point in even getting invested in these comics and whatnot if you're just going to change it in a show? But yeah, it was completely different. Yeah, versus the
how do you feel about that, Bailey? Are you cool with them retconning that a little bit, or does it bother you, or do you care?
I mean, yes and no. Like, when I still think regardless, it was a very powerful scene. And, you know, me personally, like, I didn't need to see, like, you know, the imagery of Depa being shot multiple times and falling down and telling Caleb to run. That was like enough for me. I don't think I needed to see Caleb having to kill some clones. I mean, we already kind of saw that with Ahsoka and Rex, and, you know, that's hard to watch. So I'm not upset about that. It's just like, I'm more looking at it like that it does concern me a little bit that they're able to just change something that was in print for to make room for the Bad Batch. Because as someone who likes to read the comics and the books, and as someone who would hope to write a story, that does bother me a little bit that they're you know, it's because then otherwise it's like, then why get invested in these books? The reason why people get invested in these books is because they want more content. And if they're gonna show that on screen, people are gonna look to the material. It's no different than, like, you know, like when people read the Harry Potter books, they wanted to see pretty much the same thing on screen. They didn't change anything major. So I totally get it, but at the end of the day, it's like, you know, it was still a beautifully animated, very tragic scene. And, you know, it does worry me if they're going to make a habit of that in the future.
You know, that's an interesting perspective because you're a writer, Bailey. So I could see how that could be, you know, maybe bother you a little bit because that was your baby. Brandon, do you have a different take on how you feel about them retconning the comics a little bit? Because I didn't think they demolished it. Frankly, they just moved it around a little bit. What do you think about that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have mixed feelings about it because, I mean, when it's not an old comic where, you know, and when they changed the story for the Ahsoka Maul stuff from the Ahsoka novel by E.K. Johnson. And I absolutely love that book. That was one of my first Star Wars books when I started reading the new canon, when I really started getting back into Star Wars. And then when I saw the Clone Wars and I saw how they changed it, I was like, you know what? I'm okay with it. Because like Chris said, they're going to take liberties when it comes to more people are going to see the Clone Wars or the Bad Batch and the Clone Wars on the screen rather than in a book or in a comic. As much as we all love the books and the comics, that's more people are going to see it when it's animation or live action. So I can see where people get where people would get upset with it, especially if it's one of their favorite books or comics, because that's you get used to something being, and I'm not the big canon, and you're like, okay, so this is how the story goes, and then something changes and you're like, okay, so now those details change. And sometimes it's hard to keep track of all that, even if it is just little minor changes. So I see the frustration with it, but I will say, I think because of the Bad Batch, they changed the way that the scene happened, and it was a beautiful / painful scene. So I think in some cases where they change, obviously they can't change big things, but I think they did okay with this.
Yeah, and shockingly, because I haven't read a comic book since I was like 14, I caught a video on that, and they did a comparative analysis where, although they knew they were going to be stepping on someone's baby, like Bailey said, if Bailey had written that comic, she'd have something to say about that. But they tried to kind of dovetail it in so it wasn't so like shocking to the senses when you realize that's not even close to how it happened. So I from an objective standpoint, it didn't look like anything that I would have had a problem with if I had a horse in the race either way. So, and as you guys both have put eloquently, what a powerful, I mean, it's animated and I'm feeling it in my gut. And if I'm feeling it, I know people like with, real feelings and intelligence are feeling it. So, we get the Deepa Balaba thing. They head back to Camino. They run into Omega. And then they head off to the mission. We very briefly touched on that, but I'd like to get back into that with a little bit more detail if you guys are cool with that, and talk about something that I was excited to see because I'm a huge Rogue One fan. So, Brandon, I'm going to start off with you this time, if you don't mind. Remind us again, who is this guy and where have we seen him before?
So we've seen Saw in the Clone Wars as well as Rogue One. We've seen him, an even younger version of him than this, because this takes place after the Clone Wars when we see him. But he's a fighter on the side of the Republic, and he was trained by Anakin and Ahsoka and Rex. There was like the episode of The Mandalorian where he trains that village. They kind of did a training montage episode with Saw Gerrera, and Saw Gerrera has also appeared in Jedi Fallen Order. For anybody who has played that, you get to see him on Kashyyyk. Yep, you see him on Kashyyyk. So he is trying to help the Wookiees out. And he right now they call him a fighter for the Republic, and he eventually becomes more and more extremist with it because he watched his sister be killed during an episode of the Clone Wars, and I think it's very important though, because the way he talks about things, and he does a good job of reinforcing in Hunter that the Empire is not being honest with them. And they were sent to kill these insurgents, and they thought they were going to take down separatists or droids. And then when they see that there are women and children and elderly there, they're like, these aren't insurgents. They're pretty much refugees at this point. And they end up talking to them, being taken hostage, but they talk to them, and Hunter and the rest of the group, besides Crosshairs, decide it's not their place to take care of this. They don't want to go through with the Empire's orders, and Saw's, and I don't remember the way that it was stated exactly, but Hunter tells him that we were sent to take down insurgents, and Saw says civilians, and he says times change, and then it's like targets don't, or something like that. And he pretty much says, if the Empire's not being honest to you about this, what else are they not being honest about? And that so sums up the way that he is in Rogue One, but you can see his decline when it comes to his sanity. He's been in the fight since he was young, just like Cassian says. So it's
6 years old, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do some housekeeping things here real quick. We'll take a quick break. We got Ted from Roland's Reviews showed up, and I forgot I actually had this, and then I forgot to use it. So, you know what? I don't think I put it in here. That's why I forgot to use it. I had a spoiler alert video and I forgot to load it. So, by the way, spoiler alert. so Tez didn't seem to care. So sorry about that. Darth Muzza, thanks for stopping by, man. I do appreciate it. And happy Mother's Day to your mother as well. And then I think, I'm not entirely sure, Brandon, but I think Sleeping Collectibles might be streaming right now. Because you ready?
Yeah.
Hope you have a very good first episode. Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate that. Will, I appreciate that. You're the bomb. There's Downfall again. Hey, from the Fireside Chat. Off-World Adam, always a pleasure to see you in here. Thank you very much. We got Shade Tree Hobbies. I appreciate that. Autobot Trash Talker. That's a cool name. Have a great first episode. We got Creeper Clay in here. Have a great episode. I wonder I know what's going on this time, so I didn't freak out. Think I had lost control of the thing or something. BJC, what's up? Thank you very much for stopping by and giving us a little bit of love. Dave's Empire, thank you very much. Oh man, they got crazy this time. Jason Edward, congrats. I appreciate that. Gary's Grails, congrats again. Thank you. Nathan Bowden, as always, it's a pleasure.
Yeah, Nathan.
Everybody's favorite. Yeah, Space Buns, good luck. Thank you very much. There's the man, the myth, the legend. Thanks a lot again, Sleeping. I appreciate it. You guys are nuts over there on your fireside chats. Let's see. We got a few more here, and then we'll get back to it. I don't want to miss anybody. There's BJC. Have a great first episode. Uh-oh. What did I do? Yeah, that's why, because I'm so far behind. Okay, there's Ben from the bunker. Yeah, I skipped down by accident. Downfall, already said it. Chad-tastic, that's the name. Wishing you a great show from Sleeping. Thank you so much. The views shot up to about 30 again, Brandon. We were averaging about 15, and all of a sudden it was twice. And I'm like, I know what's going on this time. I gotcha. Yep. There's JC, have a good show. G-Force, he was in earlier. Appreciate it. There's Jaeger, or Jaeger, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Thanks. Yeah, Josh. Except for this time, I'm not freaking out, thinking I'm like, how did I lose control? Yeah, Salacious knows. Yeah, he's in it. SJC, I mentioned him. Hi from Sleeping. Appreciate that. We're almost done. Let me see if there's Toy Slammer. He was in here earlier. Regina Wiggins. Hey. Thank you very much. Hey, there's our local Tatooine boy, Sean Solo Bailey. He's right down the street. Gonna listen on the way home. Thanks. Hey, Sean, I appreciate that, man. That's really cool. Don't wreck the car because we love you, babe. Yeah, we talked about Regina and Leeds. Okay, well, thank you very much to everybody who stopped by from Sleeping Stream. You guys are awesome, and I greatly appreciate that. So let's get back to it. We were talking about Saw and Saw Gerrera. Brandon, thanks for the update on that. Bailey, did he pretty much cover that? Did that sound about right?
Yeah, he put it way better than I could have.
Okay. Because any chance I get to talk about Rogue One and that comes up, we're going to do that.
That's where my knowledge kind of lacks too.
Okay. And you know what? See, from one old guy to another. Thanks, Tez. I appreciate that, man. I had to learn on the fly here. So the question is about 46 comments ago, but and it was Michael Hendrickson asked, yes or no, are we going to see Kanan Jarrus, Caleb Dune again in this series? I have a theory. Brandon, what's yours?
There's a point in Rebels where he knows about the chip, and the way that I see them bringing him back is to have Rex or the Bad Batch find him again and kind of explain what happened, so then he knows. But at that, it probably wouldn't be Rex because he would have met Rex before. So I'm guessing it'll be the Bad Batch again, so that when he gets to the point when in Rebels he meets up with Gregor, Rex, and Wolf, he knows about the chip. So I think that's where we might see him again, is him figuring out about the chip and why Order 66 happened.
Got it. Bailey, you were shaking your head. You don't think we're going to see him again?
I don't think so. And, I kind of, it's been a bit since I watched Rebels, so I forgot that Kanan knew about the chip, but I am saying no just because I also remember just how tense Kanan was about running into clones of any sort. So, I mean, it is
so strange. I wonder why.
Yeah, just I don't think it would be far-fetched if he, learned about these chips in another way. I mean, we've got a good 15 or 14 years after the fact. I mean, who knows what he's been up to, but I'm also not denying the possibility that, as Brandon said, maybe he does run into the Bad Batch again, but at this point in time, Jedi are hiding. So I don't know, maybe, but I kind of doubt it.
So Brandon says yes, Bailey says no. Brandon, I don't mean to do a Taylor pile-on here, but I'm going to go with Bailey. I think that whole segment at the beginning with the voiceover, which we didn't hear in the second episode, that was all just so it felt familiar, and then they burned away the old logo, and we were back. So I don't think we're going to see him again either. That's just my theory. Yeah. So we've gone over a lot of that stuff. I want to talk about the elephant in the room, the topic that most people have been speculating on, and a lot of you guys were right. And I think you know where I'm going with this. We get back to Camino, and who do we have? That's right. We got Omega. Bailey, can you talk about what we thought was going to happen here and what we ended up getting so far from her, if you don't mind?
So we don't actually know a whole lot about her so far, despite having the 2 episodes. What we know so far is she is in fact female. She's about, she's young. I want to say maybe like Boba Fett's age from like Attack of the Clones. And she has the same DNA makeup as the Bad Batch. And we're not entirely sure why she's so drawn to them, but when the Bad Batch arrived to Camino, she was very like drawn to them and like trying to get their attention. She's trying to meet up with them in the hallway, and like the Kaminoans are like, no, like stay away. You're a medical assistant. But she's like very interested in them, and it's kind of cute. She like emulates Hunter a lot. She looks up to them. She's very intrigued with them, and she wants to be with them. Kind of like Grogu with Mando is, the child wants to be with, these people. But why she was made, and whether or not the Empire would be interested in her, we don't know. I feel like she knows more than we know for sure, judging by how she was acting in episode 2, but that's it. I mean, so far we just know she's a female clone, and she's like a sister to them, as Brandon was saying. Like, now we have these brothers protecting a little sister, and that's it. She's still kind of a mystery, and I hope we just learn that she's like the biggest. Like, she has like my attention. Like, I want to know more about her and like what her role is and why she was created. Because I don't remember which one of them said it, but someone from the Bad Batch said the Kaminoans don't create something without a purpose. So there's a reason why they made a female clone, and that's what I'm interested in finding out.
Brandon, this is an excellent segue, Brandon, because there are several times throughout that first episode where she acts in a way that's very empathetic, and we know the Force helps you to be empathetic. She says a couple of things to Crosshairs, and you've been really good at predicting things about this clone. Why don't you tell us your thoughts on what you saw and where you think we're going with this and what we know?
Yeah, there are several times where she can, like, she seems to connect, like, emotionally with people, even though she doesn't really know them. And then at one point, she puts her hand on Crosshair's shoulders before she's Omega. Yep.
Omega. Yeah. She sounds like a Kiwi, actually, Chris. She sounds like she's from New Zealand, actually. But yeah. But anyway, sorry.
There are times where she talks to Crosshair and she's like, I know what you're about to do, and I understand that it's not your fault, which it's almost like, it's a power that not a lot of people have in Star Wars, but psychometry. Cal Kestis, Quinlan Voss, they can touch things and see the past from what it happened. We're seeing a little bit more of the premonition / foresight with her. So I don't know. I know some people have been, theorizing or predicting that she's going to be Force sensitive, and it's almost seeming that way. I know Salacious was talking about it, and he thinks that she has a little bit of the abilities of each one of them, of the Bad Batch. So, but there are times where, like, she picks up the blaster and she's got decent aim. She threw the burrito thing really well.
They serve Mexican food at the Camino Cafe. That's awesome.
Did you see it? It looked like a Chipotle burrito.
Squares, and Crosshair was just so upset about it.
Yeah, and
I was thinking Animal House food fight. That's all I could think of. Yeah, so.
And Crosshair's like, I'm just trying to enjoy my salad or whatever it is he had.
Right. Exactly.
Yes, but like we were saying, it seems like she has some sort of ability, and it'll be interesting to see what they do with it if they go full out Force sensitive. And like Josh, I think, mentioned, is she the beginning of trying to do the Force sensitive cloning? Because we know that they have mentioned that they haven't had luck with cloning Force sensitive beings because of the midichlorians. So this might be the first step of that, because that's why the Dr. Pershing in The Mandalorian was trying to get Grogu's DNA to clone a force sensitive being from that as well. So we're seeing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, I was just making Grogu noises. Buck, buck. Every time you say his name, Grogu. Buck. Sorry, that's my role on the show here. The comic idiotic relief. Everybody, hey. Buck.
Can I just say, I really hope she's not force sensitive. I'm on the team of like, I really don't want that to be the case.
I think you're going to be disappointed, Bailey. I'm not going to lie. I'm starting to think in some form or fashion she's the beginning of a clone sensitive or a force sensitive clone, to be honest with you. So we'll see. Right. I wanted to ask you guys. So we made a lot of predictions, and quite frankly, I can't think of any that didn't come true. And the thing that shocked me was it was 70 minutes, so it was long, but all of them came true in the first episode. A girl, probably force sensitive. Somebody betrays them. You called that one, Bailey. You're like, I don't like his steely eyes. I think he's going to betray him.
Well, that's just it's a pattern in Star Wars. Somebody's going to betray somebody.
Yeah, and but we got to talk about the pacing of this episode. Were you guys happy with the pace? I hope I'm not stepping on anybody's good or bad for this episode, but was this a good pace for that first episode so we can get right into it, or were you hoping they would drag this part out a little bit? Bailey?
I think it was fine. Like the time that they allotted, I think that was good because I'm a stickler when it comes to pacing. Like I don't like things that go too fast or too slow. Right. And I thought they did a really good job. Like I really liked, as much as I hate Order 66, that they started with that and you immediately, I was engaged. Like, okay, this is a really, like, I'm in for it. And then they move it along pretty quickly. And yeah, I think, and again, I kind of think with the brain of a writer is I think they did do a good job, like, progressing and pacing this. So I think the 70 minutes is fine. I feel like if they dragged it out, then it's like, that's when you would start to feel a little bit of a drag.
Got it. Brandon, what do you think about the pacing on this one? Did you like it? Think it was a little too fast, a little too slow? What?
No, I thought it was perfect because if you split it into 2 episodes to make it a regular length, they would have had to rearrange some things or, cut stuff down. And the way that there were, the peaks and the valleys in this episode where, there's them emotionally and trying to figure things out when it comes to what's going on versus the action and, right at the beginning and then right at the end. It followed that very familiar storytelling, that very familiar Star Wars storytelling. Right. And episode 2 I thought was very good because it had the same, on a smaller scale, half the size, it had the same, action, low action, and then done. So it does get overwhelming if it's just action all 30 minutes. And there were times, like, let's say season 7, The Clone Wars, where, a couple of those episodes, it was like, I'm almost like drained after watching that because it was so fast paced. Whereas these ones, it gives you time to breathe and it gives you time to think about things before, oh crap, what are we seeing? So I actually really liked that the opening episode, the premiere, was that 70-minute because it gave you time and things didn't seem breakneck pace.
Mm-hmm.
Right. They kind of set the groundwork right off the bat with this is what this show is going to be about. I agree with you both. I was a little worried when I went to pull up the second episode, which we'll be getting to in a couple of minutes here, and it was only 30 minutes. I was like, man, that's going to be jarring. And it was still a little jarring, but it was not nearly as bad as I thought. And I thought they did an excellent job. I think JT, although he's probably kidding here, he's actually got a point. You know what I mean? We're going to get into the era that Bailey mentioned. Is Star Wars as a serial, whether animated or live, going to be able to survive without, a cute baby Yoda? Because that drew in a lot of people that aren't normally Star Wars fans. And not that Omega is by any means a replacement for Grogu. I think this next series, them having Omega, is kind of, he's talking about withdrawal symptoms. It's kind of, ease you off of that so we can get into some Star. That's an excellent point, JT. And Michael, you know what? I was torn, and I think we'll get into that in a little bit more detail in a second here. I was just disappointed because I wanted a whole nother episode that was an hour long, but I think they did okay. So with that, we're going to so they kind of police up Omega. Crosshair betrays them because they up the ante on his chip, and then we kind of to head off to go see someone on a planet. They don't give us the name. We find out a little bit later. But as far as that first episode, guys, anything else we need to touch on? Anything else we need to bring up, or how do you think we did on that one?
I think we got it.
I think we did a good job. I wanted to point out a couple of the little kind of like Easter eggs that I noticed right when watching it. I mean, I've watched videos that explained all the different Easter eggs, but these are the ones that I just caught watching it. And yeah, I paused. I paused because I put the subtitles on, and Omega's number is 0219. So when it comes to like the serial numbers of the clones, that like the clone batch are all 99 and then their other number. So were there 218 before her that didn't pan out, where the midichlorians didn't take, or the force sensitive stuff, complete failures. And then the line that Crosshairs was saying, the good soldiers follow orders, is what Tup, one of the clones who killed a Jedi Master in the Clone Wars when they were that close to figuring out about the inhibitor chips. That's what he said before he killed the Jedi Master. So it was, right. I know in just our, my little circle of friends on the internet, somebody was like, yeah, that Crosshairs guy is a total dick. And it's like, I liked that they added that to make it so it's not 100% his fault. And Omega then saying, I know what you're going to do. Please don't. I know you don't have a choice. You can't help it. It makes hating him a little bit harder, but they set it up in a way where he's easy to dislike. But the fact that he doesn't have 100% control, especially after the Empire nukes his chip and turns the volume up to 11 on that, it's
but these go to 11.
But yeah, those were just a couple little Easter eggs that I noticed. And Tarkin entering like Palpatine right at the beginning. Yeah, that was another callback that I noticed. So those were.
Agreed. They do a really good job of what I call subtle fan service in this one, because I noticed a couple of things too. G-Force asked a good question here. I think we might have glossed over it a little bit, because I think a lot of people kind of figured it was going to be Crosshair. Bailey, you called it, you nailed it. Brandon, you had mentioned because of the weapon he was holding, it was probably going to be Crosshair as well. I don't think there was a lot of shock that it was Crosshair. Do you guys agree with me, or am I nuts?
No, because he I remember him being kind of like the more mean one, I guess, like in the Clone Wars. So I don't know, he already had that kind of personality, so it wasn't shocking at all. But to bring up that comment, I think we were thinking that Commander Cody was going to be the all-black trooper, and
that's right.
Crosshair.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think that's off the table yet. I think there's that. I think you're looking at. You called it, Brandon, a couple of times ago when we were talking. We're looking at the evolution of these enhanced clones, or maybe the later clones that are a little bit better, to shadow troopers, to death troopers. And I think we're seeing that. And I'm not completely convinced that Cody doesn't end up being one, if not all of those. So, and we're getting some, Josh is making some great predictions here. They'll either get him back or he'll die trying to save them in the end. And then, yeah, exactly. The toy kind of gave it away. So you're like, hey, these guys the same weapon. Anyway, we'll, you know what? Gilster's got a question. And then we'll move on. I think he means Maz Kanata, or is that? Yeah. Okay. Maz. What do you guys think of that?
Something tells me no, because there would need to be a reason for them to seek this character out, and just knowing who is running this show, which is Filoni, and his personal thoughts on the sequels, I don't really see that happening, them putting an effort into bringing any of those characters in. And it's as we talked about in the previous show, where if we see cameos, like it needs to make sense. Like having the bounty hunters in the show makes sense, because now the Empire, we know, is going to be looking for these guys. That makes sense. Where Maz is kind of like, she's running like a cantina on a pretty neutral world, so I don't think so. I think that would be a bit of a stretch to try to bring her into this show.
Agree. Brandon, do you want to opine on that really fast? What do you think, Maz Kanata, yes or no?
No, I don't think so. They're, you know, when people were guessing Caleb Doom, and I didn't expect the clone that we saw in season 2, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But it definitely, I feel like there has to be a reason, and there has to be some sort of prior connection, and it might be something that we aren't even thinking about.
Right.
But I don't see Maz, especially since the only connection I could really see is the lightsaber, but that's still years from happening.
Right.
And
yeah, you know, and I think I'm not going to lie, I think Josh makes a good point here. Excuse me, but I'm going to side with you guys on this one. I think there's just so many other people they could run into, and so many other places they could go, that I don't expect to see Maz either. I think they've still got a lot of splaining to do on how she got a hold of some of the stuff, and I don't think it's going to happen here. So we're going to kind of segue into episode 2, unless you guys disagree. Bailey, you good?
I'm good.
Brandon?
good.
All righty. So we'll kind of segue into episode 2 here. And before we start, I want to set up the theme. And I think Bailey has said it, and Brandon, you've mentioned this, the found family theme. We already saw it in episode 1, and I'll be doggone if what happens in episode 2, but we don't get another found family, right? So Bailey, we're going to let you go first this time. Do you want to give us a quick overview of kind of what happens after they take off from Kamino? They've got Omega. They're trying to escape the Empire. Where are we going? What's going on?
Yeah, so I can't remember the planet top of my head, Brandon, if you want to, I don't know.
Saleucami.
Saleucami? Okay.
Saleucami.
Saleucami. Okay, so they go to Saleucami, and they go there to meet up with a clone that we have seen in the Clone Wars years ago. And this is Cut. He is a clone, and he's a clone that actually went MIA. Like, he left the Clone Wars pretty early on, and he met his wife Sue there, and they just live. They're just farmers on this planet. This planet is pretty desolate. So it's a good place for them to raise their family and whatnot. But the Bad Batch, we don't know how they know Cut and his family, but this is their first stop. And I can't remember on top of it. Was there like a reason why they went to go see Cut right away? Like, I know like why they stayed, but why? I can't remember why exactly they chose to go there first.
I actually know the answer to that, Brandon. You know?
Oh, okay. I was just gonna say that Hunter just kind of mentions I have an old friend that might be able to help, but go ahead, Paul.
Right. So the specific reasoning that he gives is this guy knows how to disappear. He knows how to go off the grid. He knows how to back out. And remember, and he's like, so we're going to go talk to him and see what, how did he figure out how to do it? Because we got to go off the grid. So that's why they end up down there.
Gotcha. Okay. So they arrive there, and, what I found really sweet and endearing of this episode is this is like Omega's first time away from Kamino. And so she's like loving being on. Oh, please, no. Again, I would need a very good reason for his appearance. What type of Jar Jar afterwards? I'm pretty sure Vader kills him from my note. But anyway, we're going way off topic.
Sorry,
off topic. But yeah, so they go to this planet, and again, we don't know how the Bad Batch knows Cut and his family. To me, if you haven't seen Clone Wars, I can see how this can be kind of jarring, because these people literally only showed up for like an episode, I think, on the Clone Wars. But so they go and they kind of explain to Cut, what's happened. Oh, actually, no, they didn't have to explain a whole lot because Captain Rex, clone that Ahsoka saved, actually came there the day before, informed Cut, hey, this is what happened. It's, the Republic's gone, our brothers turned against the Jedi. So these guys already knew what was going on, and they're actually planning to leave off world because what's happened now is the Empire is starting to track people. They're putting like serial numbers on people when they go off world. They're taking ships, they're cataloging everything. Which is just, it's very reminiscent of like Nazi Germany, how they labeled people to keep track. So Cut and his family, they're trying to go off world. And the problem is, since Cut looks like a clone, that was like basically the whole episode was the Bad Batch helping this family leave because it is very difficult to leave. It's they're finding out that running away and hiding is not going to be as easy as they initially thought because the Empire is tracking everything. And they try to I'm sorry, Paul.
That's okay. Go.
And then the last point was we had the whole, because they have 2 kids and Omega's, interacting with kids, kind of like in Mando where, Grogu's interacting with kids and he considers leaving him, behind. These guys are starting to think, I don't know if Omega's necessarily safe with us or if we can provide a good life for her because we can clearly see this is going to be hard. And she's just a kid. She's not a soldier. Like there's a part where she almost gets attacked and, she's like defenseless and, is really shocked by it. And they try to give her away to this family. But of course, she's like, no, I want to be with you guys. So basically, and it's funny, it's kind of going around the internet. The show should be called The Dad Batch because now you got all these men, raising this little girl now. But that was the point of the episode was, all right, we're going to see these people. We're going to see if they can help us disappear. Never mind. They want to leave off world because the Empire is tracking everyone and it's not safe here anymore.
Yeah, we're going to start calling it 4 Men and a Little Lady from those old school movies. Chris has an excellent point here. This cartoon, I think, this animation is doing a very good job of not beating you over the head with it, but just touching on themes that throughout human history have caused us angst and difficulty in this chain code is what they call it, by the way, Bailey, this chain code thing, which tied it into The Mandalorian, by the way, was an interesting way to get that introduced. Brandon, I want to talk to you for a second. I want to ask you a question. I had predicted that there was no way that Wrecker with his big goofy butt and Hunter were going to be able to blend in anywhere. Yet here they are wandering through clones and looking them in the face, and no one seems to know. I want to get your thoughts on that. What do you think's going on? What's the deal?
I think it's a little bit weird. And there was a point where Cut gets kind of recognized by one of the troopers, which at this point I still believe are all clones, but they're just kind of like, you kind of look like, and you can totally tell that he's about to say, you kind of look like me. And I mean, how many times do we see in Star Wars where they're just like in a easy disguise, or like the Superman wearing like a trench coat and glasses and people can't tell it's him. So I mean, right. It's you still have to make the characters recognizable, when you're watching it. But I thought it's just one of those fun things where it's like, well, how are they going to disguise them without being too ridiculous about it? But definitely the whole chain codes and even the clones saying like, we didn't like being identified by numbers and now people are trying to sign up for them.
Right.
Yeah. And then I think 2 of my favorite parts of the episode are when Omega bends down and touches the soil of a different planet. And then when I don't remember which members of the Bad Batch are exactly talking about. And he's like, well, why are we talking to a deserter? And he's like, well, we're all deserters now. And he was like, oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah. So I thought Bailey did a great job summing up what the episode was about so far. And, it's one of those, it was the first short episode. So it was them, just a little bit of the story, like them figuring out that Rex had just met them and, we need to try to disappear because we have to protect Omega now. But also at the same time, they have something else to deal with the chain codes now, and it's not going to be as easy.
Very, very true. And I think they did, as Chris mentioned, they did an excellent job of kind of tying that into stuff that actually means something to, real people here on Earth. I wanted to ask you guys, and whoever wants to go first on this one can go. We were worried, to use Bailey's term, that these characters are going to be Tropensteins. And I wanted to get your guys' opinion. Maybe we will start with you, Bailey. How are they doing at fleshing these guys out so they're not just two-dimensional goofballs? How are you feeling about what they're doing and how they're doing so far?
I think so far so good. Like,
Okay.
watching these 2 episodes, there was never a time where I was like annoyed. Actually, I take that back. Like, record because that's my least favorite trope of all. I don't like it, and he was kind of a loudmouth in the beginning. But
Right.
it wasn't like, it wasn't like all the time. It's something that's like, that annoys me a little bit, but it's not going to ruin the show for me. So none of these characters have acted in a way where I'm like, oh my God, like I can't do this. So no, I think so far so good. And, I think we have about 13 more episodes or so. So I can assume that these characters are going to be more fleshed out. And a friend of mine was telling me how it seems like that's a very Star Wars thing to do, is when you're first introduced to characters, they tend to live a kind of a trope, but then they become their own individual as the show progresses. And then when it ends, they become like, oh yeah, I really like this character now. So yeah, I think so far so good. We're at the beginning. So, but I haven't been annoyed. I haven't thrown in the towel yet.
No, well, that's why I put you up first, because I just wanted to, like, it was Bailey smashing her forehead going, oh my God, that's a good sign. That's a really good sign. I'm excited. Brandon, what are your I know we're only 2 episodes into this. What are your thoughts on how they're fleshing these guys out so they're just not like,
Yeah, and I like the way that they've done it, and they made, Crosshairs, who seem like the mean guy, they gave him a reason to not be like 100% responsible for what he's doing. All of the tropes and the cheesiness seem to be turned down a little bit from the Clone Wars, like I said earlier. And it's funny to me because Wrecker's still kind of like the way that he does things, like just the like space
Aladdin, my favorite.
Yeah, like Space Kool-Aid Man. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's funny because one of his the line that's most acceptable, like expected from his character, I like blowing stuff up because I like blowing stuff up. I actually really liked that, and I thought it was really funny because it's totally something that you could see him saying. Like, he doesn't get it at all about why that might be, and he's just like, I just like blowing stuff up. But when they are explaining the things, like even when Tech is saying like, this is why we're special, it's because Crosshair's sniping ability, Hunter's got his improved senses, he likes to destroy stuff, and I've got my, I've got my like incredible brain or something like that. And even when they were describing that, it was like, see, they could have done that and explained it in the Clone Wars season 7, and it would have annoyed me much less than what we did get. But like Bailey said, when you introduce them, you almost have to be hit over the head with the trope to see what exactly is special about that character.
Fair enough. And I would agree with you. I think they're doing a pretty good job under the circumstances thus far, kind of fleshing them out. One of my favorite exchanges is, how long have we been gone? 47, 614 revolutions around the thing, but and he looks and he goes, what? A long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was pretty cool. Let's go through, some of the comments here. This one's my favorite. That'll always get a response from Bailey.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then they cast the guy who actually played Aladdin to play Ezra. So anyway, let's. Josh has a good question here. Really quick, do we think this is going to lead into Kenobi? I have an answer, but Bailey, you have an opinion? Go.
I have an opinion. Go. I don't think so. I think they're gonna really. I mean, Omega may be the Force sensitive, but I just feel like they're not gonna mess with Obi-Wan very much, just because of the timing. Like at this point, Obi-Wan is just hiding in Tatooine and gonna keep a low profile. I wouldn't. If he's going to do something, it's not going to be anytime soon. It's just way too soon. Maybe. I mean, with these shows, we never know what we're going to get. They might drop an Easter egg that's going to pop up in this show. Who knows? But I don't know. I feel like they're going to try to stay away from the Jedi. I feel like if we were to get our fill of Jedi, I think we got it with Order 66. So I don't know. I doubt it, but it's always a possibility.
Brandon, you want to touch on that?
If I'm not mistaken, I think the Kenobi series is set halfway between Revenge of the Sith. Yeah. So, okay. So I don't see this story lasting that long to where it leads into it. I'm not even sure how long after. I expect to see the Inquisitors in Kenobi, but not the Bad Batch yet, because it needs to have time to set up. So if we're not even going to see that yet, I don't quite think we will see set up for Kenobi. I think they are going to have Kenobi be the show that doesn't quite need to be set up. Yeah. I think they're going to let it stand on its own legs without being referenced or brought into, especially with it being the Bad Batch. And that's not saying anything bad about the Bad Batch. It's just to have it lead into it. I don't think we're gonna get that.
And I wouldn't disagree with you either, Brandon. I think this one's going to be unique in as much as it's pretty much going to occupy its own little world with maybe little cameos here and there just for a little bit of fun and fan service. So I don't think either of you guys are crazy on that. So there's one last specific topic I want to touch on, and then we're gonna hit up some goods and bads and stuff like that. But we haven't really hit this too much. Rex shows up in the previews, and as you can see, he's still in his Clone Wars era armor, and the Bad Batch has their armor on, and you can just see Omega down here. And Cut mentions that Rex had literally been through hours before them, if not a day. Brandon, what's going to happen with Rex? He's obviously on their team here. They'd be shooting him in the back. What's going to happen with Rex here? Or when are we going to see him?
I'm more into. I guess I missed this screenshot. I did not realize that this was in any of the footage. I'm trying to pick out what that is behind them, but I'm not as good at identifying structures. But yeah, I don't know.
Okay, I finally stumped Brandon. I stumped him finally. Bailey, what do you got? You're a huge Clone Wars fan. Not that Brandon isn't, but there he is, right there in the preview with them behind him. I swear to God, Brandon, I didn't Photoshop this.
No, I don't know how I missed this.
Yeah, no,
what's his deal? What are we gonna do?
I think we're gonna see, because in the Ahsoka novel, it doesn't really explain how Ahsoka and Rex kind of parted ways. So I think maybe we're gonna see that. I don't know. It's hard to say with Ahsoka, but I think we may just see that, Rex, trying to figure out where he's going to. Yeah, I was gonna say it looks kind of like a Republic cruiser too, and it's hard. This screenshot doesn't really give us a whole lot of information. I guess that's good. It's coming from a trailer. We shouldn't know everything, but I want to say maybe we'll see him in the next episode, because like you said, Rex literally passed through, so he can't be too far away. And
that's the only reason I bring it up, is because they mention him way earlier than I expected. They're talking about him in the second episode, and I didn't think we were going to get him till later, so that's why I brought it up. Yeah,
and I'm kind of surprised that he's wearing his armor, because I feel like that would be because the clones that work for the Empire, they're wearing kind of like a prototype stormtrooper getup. So I'm really surprised that he's wearing that, because I would think, you know, as we've mentioned, that these people would want to disguise themselves. You know, the most Star Warsy way to disguise yourself is wearing a poncho or something, and these guys aren't doing that. They're just out in the open doing that. So wearing a poncho and a hood or something, but these guys aren't. So I don't know, but I think in Rebels, Rex and the other surviving clones, they were in a pretty desolate planet too. So maybe it's that. But
so I think, you know what, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's an excellent segue. I think Rebels and this show are going to overlap more than any other thing, like other than Kenobi or any of that other stuff. That's what I really, because I think you're right. I think they're on the planet where the Rebels crew finds them later, or finds those clones later. Yep. So let's move on here. I think we've hit both the episodes pretty good. You guys actually kind of shocked me with some of the things you picked up, and I was impressed, because I took show notes and everything just so I could keep up with you two. So, but so far, both episodes together, plus what you may or may not have seen in the trailers, what are they doing well? What's the good thing they're doing so far? Brandon, can you let me know what you think? What's the good?
And it was one of my hopes for the series when we were talking about the primer show, and it was the emotional themes of the series. And I was hoping that it wasn't just going to be action. I was hoping that, you know, it wasn't just going to be, you know, these little missions, that we'd actually see some emotions. And the fact that the Aftermath, as soon as I saw that was the title for it, it was like, we're gonna see some stuff. And that first episode was very powerful, and then even moments in the second episode were very powerful. And you know, the animation between Clone Wars and Rebels, you have certain expectations for these animated shows, and constantly I just keep getting blown away by them, about, you know, what I expect to feel when I watch it. And I think that's something that they do a very good job of. And I think that's, you know, something that can easily be overlooked when people are like, well, we want to see this happen, or we want to see this much of something happen. And, you know, I am a sucker for those moments where you get those thoughtful little blurbs where it's Saw Gerrera saying, you know, if they're lying to you about this, what else are they lying about? You know, setting up the seeds of distrust and mistrust, and they do a very good job, and that's probably the top thing. Other than the episodes look absolutely beautiful. When season 7 of the Clone Wars came out, I was like, oh my goodness! And there's that rocket firing at Obi-Wan, and he cuts it down and stuff like that. I was like, this is prime, like, Star Wars animation. And then I saw the animation for this one, and I was like, I didn't think it was going to get better than so they keep surprising me in multiple ways.
Nice. Bailey, I'm going to ask you that same question in just a second here, but I wanted to point out a couple of things. First of all, Chris agrees with you, but Wrecker has a pretty hat and a poncho. He should.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure he was wearing a poncho and a hat.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the go-to disguise. Poncho makers and hood makers, they were making all the money afterwards, because that's how they did.
Exactly. And I just wanted to say hi to we got Viblogio Intensos in with us again. He got here a little late. Vi, it's good to see you. You're never late, my brother. I appreciate you stopping by, man, and joining us. But Bailey, we were talking about the good, and I would love to hear your perspective on what they're doing well in this series so far.
Well, I want to say that, as Brandon said, the animation is just gorgeous. It is absolutely beautiful. And I really liked how we even saw an animated Obi-Wan and Anakin from Revenge of the Sith. And what really, like, got me, like, oh my God, like, all excited was they opened the first episode just like they would open an episode of Clone Wars, where you got the narration, like, and then, like, you know, we are here now. And it was like, just so that feeling of nostalgia was just so like, oh my gosh, like I'm watching it just like I don't want to call it the Clone Wars, but it's just like I got that same like excitement, and the animation's just gorgeous, and the animation and the music and just the voice acting was just, well, minus Caleb's, but it was so well done, and I even like. It got me choked up. Like I got really choked up with the series finale of Clone Wars. I will say it over and over. It's probably like arguably one of the best series finales of any show. It was just beautifully done, just by like the animation. So animation, gorgeous, and they're doing a really good job integrating, Revenge of the Sith and setting the tone up. One of my favorite lines that the Bad Batch says is when they're coming to community, they keep notating that this is weird, like something feels wrong. Killing the Jedi seems weird. Like they keep saying like everything is just really intense, and they do a really good job emphasizing that. With Tarkin's presence and the whole chain code thing, they do a really good job. And as Brandon said, what Saul was saying was that this is a very uncomfortable time, and even like for regular people, they're being tracked now. You can't really hide, so they're doing a really good job of that. And I really like how it's not, as Brandon mentioned, it's not like a on and off switch. Like, we're not seeing stormtroopers quite yet. Things are still really fresh, and they do a really good job of keeping that tone, because that's one thing that would drive me crazy in shows too, is when they change the tone. But no, from the get-go, it's like this is an intense time in history, and they're just carrying that. So animation and just the way they're handling things story-wise is just really well done, and it's definitely it's exceeding my expectations, and that's what I wanted. With this show, is like I want them to prove me wrong. I didn't want any curveball. I want to point that out too. Is there hasn't been any like curveballs of like what, like just that was something I was afraid of going into the show. Is I don't want Filoni to drop something or a new person or an event that would like take away from what's going on, but that hasn't happened. So, yeah, they're doing a very good job so far.
Nice. Really quick. VI, we went over Omega a little while ago, so hopefully you'll hit us back on the rewind and get a good view. Chris makes a good point here. It's something that I was going to point out, but he's a good segue. The good was hearing the voice of Tom Kane, who does the VO for the Clone Wars. I loved that guy's voice. What makes this very poignant to hear his voice one last time is he had a stroke, and it may have ended his voiceover career. I don't know if you guys are aware of that. So this may have been the last thing. So, we're obviously, thinking of him, and hopefully he pulls through and he's able to come back, because I was like Bailey, when I heard that voiceover, and I wasn't even a huge Clone Wars fan. I was like, oh, this is cool. That's that guy. And then the logo burned away, and they had me on that first episode. So we're going to talk about, and if you don't have anything, I totally see that, especially since we're only 2 episodes in. Brandon, we'll get back to you again. Have you seen anything so far where you're thinking to yourself, oh man?
No, not really. And the only thing that I would say is I'm worried that they're going to do what The Mandalorian did, and it's going to be too many cameos, like one cameo each episode, and it's not, the series isn't going to be able to find its footing without bringing these other characters in and trying to connect it. I understand the cameos that we've had so far. I think having Cut was important. I think Rex is important. If we see the bounty hunters later, as long as it remains crucial to the story of this, yes, necessary. I'm just worried that they might, for the sake of having big names or fan favorite characters in the show, we've talked about this before, is that let's have a reason for them to show up. Let's not just have them walk by or do something really cool for the sake of them doing something really cool.
Right. No Dr. Evazan walk-bys. Yeah. Bailey, have you seen anything so far that just made you slap your forehead or like almost gag, or are they doing okay so far?
No, they're doing all right. I'm like, I haven't seen anything that has me like, upset. But what I'm worried about is some copying and pasting going on in terms of like plot and like characters. I like having a plot that's easy to follow and understand. But we're already seeing a lot of similarities between this and like The Mandalorian and like other Star Wars projects where it's like, oh, we're gonna take this kid and this kid is gonna be special somehow, and and I don't know. It's something we've seen a lot in Star Wars, and I'm not saying. I get like if it's not broken, don't fix it. But at the same time, it's like I just hope they really take the story and do something different with it without being too crazy or anything. But I don't want to see an animated Mandalorian. I don't.
Right.
That's when I would start to lose interest, because then it's like, well, what's the point of, what's the difference? Why do I need to put the minutes into this show if I've already seen a show that's just like this? I do believe that, with Star Wars, you can do so many things with it. And I don't want every single show to be like, we're going to bring a child into this mess. We've seen that in Rebels. We've seen that in Mando, Clone Wars, with these Padawans, because Ahsoka, they were like, oh, she's really young, but they bring her on anyway. So that's what I don't. I'm seeing that a little bit. And based on the theories, it's like, oh, Omega being Force sensitive. It's like, that's so predictable. Like, I want to be guessing, and again, this is me thinking as a writer, is like, there's a difference between a plot being easy to follow and a plot being like so predictable that you're like, yep, this is exactly what's going to happen. Because it's entertaining and it's beautiful to watch, but please keep me guessing, because that's what builds that excitement to watch the next episode. Is I don't know what they're going to do next, but now I'm already hearing it. It's like, we're going to see another cameo in this episode, and this is exactly what's going to happen. And Omega is Grogu. And that's what I didn't want to happen. And that's why I was like, man, I hope she's not Force sensitive. Because it's like, I want them to do something different. They shouldn't be, don't play it safe. We've had a couple of shows of this. It's okay to experiment as long as you're, not doing anything crazy ridiculous. So that's my only concern, is like, I don't want to see animated Mandalorian stretched out into more episodes. Right.
Chris brings up something here that I thought it was flimsy, and they did okay. But he said the only thing I thought was there was no real reason given why Cut and his family couldn't have got on the Bad Batch's ship, and they just, blink and you're gone, miss it, said he didn't want to involve his family with renegade clones. But he is a renegade clone. So Chris kind of has a point there. Brandon, did you catch that? What did you think of that?
Yeah, it seemed the whole thing of let's get our ship impounded, and then, but also at the same time try to, do this thing that's going to bring attention to us by trying to keep attention away from them. But I did understand that, they wanted to keep Cut and his family out of it so that they had to go their separate ways. I was like, I really hope they don't kill Cut or any of the family members. I was like, please don't do that. So I was glad to see that is not what happened.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. So far, and we're going to get into some fan theories next to see if you guys have been paying attention to anything online. But if you had to give both episodes right now a 1 to 10 scale, Bailey, where are you at on a 1 to 10 so far?
I would say like a 6 or a 7. Like,
that's better than what you started off.
Yeah,
you started off at 5.
Yeah. Because I was like, they're pretty good, but I'm not like overwhelmed by them. I wasn't thinking like, oh, I gotta watch that again. So that's why I'm, keep like a 10 out of 10 to me is like, oh my God, I'm so blown away. I gotta watch this like 1,000 times, and I just really like what they're doing. Like I'm not able to predict what's going on. The cameos they have are really good. Like, so I think it's good. It's doing a good job so far. But like I said, it's that concern of I've seen this before many times that's keeping it away from a higher score. So 6-7 for me.
So 6.5 out of 10 is what you're saying.
Yeah, pretty much.
Brandon, where are you at? 1 to 10, brother?
I'd say a collective 8, but the first episode a 9, the second episode a 7, and for me it's a higher number because they are exploring the time period that we've talked about that we really want to see it. This is a gap that the imagery and the rise of the Empire is so strong, and we can see Vader, we can see the stormtroopers evolve and all that stuff. So I'm glad that we're getting that, which we've seen the clones and then we've seen the stormtroopers, and you can see like the progression, but it'll be nice to fill that in. And I am guessing that we might get a couple helmets out of this, Paul.
Oh, come on, brother. This is a whole different show. I could talk about helmets till tomorrow. I hope so. Go ahead.
Yeah. And then the second episode, it was a very, run of the mill, like, let's, explore this a little bit and go get help, but also at the same time, like, help somebody out. And like Bailey said, you can kind of see where it's going. And that was one of my notes it's nothing unexpected has happened yet. And I think that's what is going to happen with these first couple episodes. It's going to be the stuff that it's easy to see. And I think they're going to do what they did with the Mandalorian, or they did do with the Mandalorian, what they did do with the Bad Batch, what they did with the Mandalorian, where they only used footage from the first couple of episodes so that we run out of stuff to, predict. And for whatever reason, I missed that Rex image. I'm so upset.
Daddy got you. I got you.
Yeah. But that's just, that's the only thing.
No, and
keeping it back.
and I agree with both of you guys. That first 70 minutes was, we predicted a lot of it, but I was still excited to see it. The second episode, little formulaic, little serialized. We've seen this before, but what kept my interest specifically was seeing the change in the logo to the Empire, this is what we wanted to see, things changing, everything being called Imperial. The armor is slowly starting to change, but more importantly, they had what I think is going to be that Rear Admiral Rampart guy. I think that's him in the holo, giving the message to everybody, come get a chain code. And when I saw that Imperial officer in the holo, I knew we were in the right era, and that kind of saved it for me. And we'll hit this. Josh, he's giving it an 8 out of 10. VI 6 out of 10. Yeah, VI, they're going to have to bring their game to get him on board. That's for sure. And then we got Gilster over here at about a 7.5. So, overall, that's not a huge variance if you're into math. I mean, nobody's down at 1 or 2 or 3, and nobody's like 10. So, and of course, it's been early. It's only 2 episodes, so we're gonna obviously continue to go in this with an open mind. But so far, everybody's leaning towards the positive, just slight variances thereof. So, absolutely, Josh, call me later, Josh. So let's go into. Bailey, she's like, oh, my family's watching Paul. Stop. So we got the banners here. Okay. So this is one of my favorite topics. And obviously we're already at 90 minutes, so we won't. But have you seen, and we're going to start with Brandon on this one, have you seen one thing that for sure is right with the fan theories or predictions, even if it's about something that already happened and they're trying to explain it, or something that you for sure know is wrong, Brandon?
I've seen.
Here we go.
I've seen people and they're reacting, and it's the picture of Omega next to Captain Phasma, and they're like, "Wait a second!" It's like, "What are you wait a seconding?" Like, we have a novel about Phasma.
I mean, then again, Brandon, we've come to find out just because it's in literature doesn't mean it's going to translate.
Right, but rewriting a whole characters.
Right, yeah.
They're blonde and their hair gets poofy on the sides. Or
they're both human.
And I've also seen one where it's Omega picking up the dirt and being amazed by it, and then Ray seeing all the green on Takodana, and it's like Omega is like Ray's mom, and it's like,
yeah,
oh my god, and it's people just being funny. But the one with Phasma, it's like, no.
right.
They would have said that Phasma was a clone. They would have done this, and
also that's like 60 years before any of that happens too. So
and people are like, well, they're gonna age differently, and then somebody said they age slower, don't they? And it's like, no, they age faster. So yeah, that was the one where I was like, grapefruit spoon to my eyes, like, take that away. Like,
I'm just so excited that we found something that actually upsets Brandon a little bit.
He's
so smooth, nice. Man. Wow. Hey, Bailey, I know you got something that either you think is either crazy or you think is going to happen. What you got for me?
You know what? Honestly, I've stayed away from fan theories because, as Brandon said, like the ones that we've talked about already, fan theories have always been just so far-fetched and just so ridiculous, and like they're just so off base that I just get annoyed hearing them more than anything. I would prefer to just watch the show and make my own predictions. And we've already talked about the theories that I don't like, and I don't think that's ever going to happen in this one. But yeah, and that's why I brought up the whole copy and paste. We've seen this before. Is like there's not really anything going on yet that's given me that freedom to think of things. There's not anything there where I'm like, ooh, like what are they going to do with this? Yada yada. So no, unfortunately, I'm coming up with a blank. I'm staying away from fan theories because they're typically just annoying. I mean, like that's the best way I can put it, is because you just, as Brandon said, like their logic is just so stupid.
Wow.
Just like, hey, Omega has blonde hair and is a human. She must be Captain Phasma, or maybe there's a connection there. It's like, no,
Bailey coming out spitting venom.
Yeah. I speak the truth, and it's silly. So no, I don't have anything, and I'm hoping the show will give me something to think about, but it hasn't yet.
Right. Yeah, it must be interesting to look at a show like this, or any show for that matter, with the mind of a trained writer. You're going, that's not how you set a character up, or that is, or something.
Yeah,
so
no.
God bless you.
I'm just being like, I've seen this before. I've seen this before 3 times.
I think JT is new to this stream. I don't remember him being in the last one, but this was Brandon.
Yep. Space A-Team. Yep.
Yep.
Have a problem. So you can find them.
Yeah.
Maybe you can hire the Bad Batch. Yep.
The Bad Batch. Exactly. So, and then we're coming towards the end here. We got one more thing I want to talk about with you guys, and this is one of my favorites as well. Brandon, you are up, my friend. Specifically in the next episode, or if you've got an overall prediction, what are we going to see? But I'd love to hear what you think is going to happen next episode.
Well, now that I know that Rex is going to be in it, I'm going to say that because when I got done with this episode, I was like, okay, they mentioned Rex. But I was like, I wonder if we'll actually see Rex, not knowing that there's footage with Rex. I honestly don't know how I missed that, but it definitely seems like that's where they're, gonna go now. But the other thing is, I think when we were talking about the toy earlier about Crosshair, and it went from his Bad Batch armor to the one that looks more like a Death Trooper, or a Shadow Trooper. The Elite Trooper that somebody else was talking about is the one that looks more like a Phase 2 clone with like the rounded. That's the one that I think will be Commander Cody, and I think we will see Rex and Cody in the same episode.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Bailey, what do you got specifically for next episode, or if not, real soon thereafter?
I really think we're probably going to see Rex soon, either this episode or the next. I think we might get a check-in with Crosshair because they tend to do that. We tend to bounce between what's going on with the villains and what's going on with the protagonists. So I think we're going to get more what's going on with Crosshair. I think we're going to get Rex very soon, possibly Ahsoka. I don't know. Maybe they already split, went their separate ways. And I'm just really hoping we get more information on Omega because I don't know, like there's a moment in episode 2 where she's just kind of sitting on the ship by herself and she just seems really upset about something. And I don't know if it's because of, kind of like the little freak accident that she got herself involved with, but she just seemed really upset about something. And it's like, do you know something that we don't know? Like, does she know more than she's letting on? But yeah, so I'm just hoping to get more answers, I guess. I don't have anything where I'm like, yep, this is exactly what's going to happen.
Oh, okay, fair enough. I think those are both excellent predictions. I agree. Rex pretty soon. That Cody prediction, that's a good one, Brandon. Yeah. I like that as well. So, all right. Well, so far, I got to be honest, I'm having a blast with the show, and I'm having a blast doing this show with you two guys. So I hope we continue in that vein. Before we start to wrap this up, I don't have the icon loaded up, but if you found this show, then you know what the icon looks like, and that is the Bad Batch breakdown with Brandon and Bailey. For some strange reason, I forgot your name. Anyway, you get some more of this, Anyway, Bad Batch breakdown with Brandon and Bailey, or Bailey and Brandon, depending on which is your favorite, hosted by Paul's Collectibles. We do this 6 o'clock Pacific time. I'm turning into you, Brandon. I can't. My mind's not working right now. I can't think of Pacific time. Really. Yeah. Anyway, we do this at 6 p.m. every Saturday Pacific time after the new episodes of the Bad Batch come out on Friday, and that'll be 9 p.m. Eastern. Got Bailey and Brandon come back, and we'll be breaking down each and every episode. If you joined us live today, we greatly appreciate it. The chat has just been off the chain again. And you know what? This is why I love Josh. I almost forgot who I was. I'm like, I know me. I know who I am. But everybody that came and participated, I cannot begin to tell you how much we enjoy having you here. And we're very thankful that it's just not the three of us, although that would still be fun. It's great to have people in the chat with us. And if you're watching this on the rewind, thank you so much for going back and checking us out. If you have any questions that we haven't answered that you'd like to see answered in the next episode or live while we're talking about episode 3, please make sure you put those in there, because these two right here, awesome at knowledge base and predicting what's going on and knowing things, other than the fact that Rex was in this. And it is great to get the interactions. So with that, I'm going to wind us down. But Bailey, do we have any final thoughts before we get up out of here?
No, I just, I'm looking forward to seeing what's next. And, I hope we're going to see more of that big picture we're going for. So far, so good. But I do want to see something different. I don't want to see another Bando Rebels. I don't. That's my only concern.
Fair enough. And I don't think you'll get any disagreement from us. Brandon, any last thoughts before we get on up out of here?
No, I'm just so excited because each week I get to, I wake up early before I go to work and I watch it. And then I take little notes while I think I watched the first episode 3 times and the second episode twice. Wow. Yep. So I was really excited for today to be able to talk these 2 episodes, because we were keeping things. We weren't we weren't giving each other thoughts. We were just like, yeah, that was a cool episode. That was a good way to open it. But we didn't share anything between this. So This was really fun to hear, what you two have, had thoughts about. So I'm happy.
And I tell you, one of these episodes, Bailey is just going to either absolutely hate or be absolutely angry about something, and Brandon is going to be absolutely enamored with it. And I'm just waiting for the dignified and polite. It's going to be awesome when it happens too. So it's coming.
I did that backwards. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yes, I'm just going to hit the ding and sit back with popcorn. It's going to be awesome.
Oh my goodness.
But Josh, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate that. You have been, since we started this, one of our greatest supporters, and you come up with some great comments, and this has been awesome. JT, this is my first time here, and I love the show. Thank you guys. That And I'm serious about that. Means a lot to me, seriously, because although this is fun, we put a lot of effort into putting this together, and I'm trying to do 16 things at once here to engineer this thing. So the fact that we're entertaining and that you enjoy it means a lot to us. And I know Brandon and Bailey both appreciate that. And Chris, as always, Uncle Chris in the house, you guys got to get our back and take care of us. So thank you very much. So with that, we'll go over it one more time and let's see if I can do it right this time. 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, every Saturday, hosted here on Paul's Collectibles, Bad Batch Breakdown with Bailey and Brandon. And we would love to have you join us. So with that, I am going to get us on out of here. But here at Paul's Collectibles, Bailey knows this, we have a tradition. And Brandon, we'd like to get you involved in this at the end of each episode that we do have something we go, we'll see you on the next video.